Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. Real people, real issues, and real estate. We're joined by phone by special guest and best-selling author Steve Manchester. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate it.
So I want to give you, everybody listening, an update about Stephen. We had him on our show not too long ago. He was working on a book, and we're excited to say that his book is being released today. Stephen Manchester is the author of 4 #1 bestsellers. They are 12 Months, The Rockin' Chair, Pressed Pennies, and Gooseberry Island. His long-anticipated novel, The Changing Season, goes on sale today. Steve is also the author of an award-winning novel, Goodnight, Brian. He has written A Christmas Wish, a Kindle exclusive, Wilbur Avenue, a novelette, and Just in Time, also a novelette, and The Thursday Night Club, a novella. While his work has appeared on NBC's Today Show, CBS's The Early Show, CNN's American Morning, and BET's Nightly News. 3 of Stephen's short stories were selected 101 Best for Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and he is the produced playwright of 3 shoeboxes. When not spending time with his beautiful wife Paula or their 4 children, this Massachusetts author is promoting his works. Or it sounds like you're always writing. When are you not writing, Stephen? I mean, that's a lot of books. That's crazy. Like, how many hours a day do you write?
I actually write a couple hours a day when the kids go to sleep and the house is quiet. I spend time during the day. I commute up to Boston from Somerset, so it's basically like a 60-mile ride, one way. So I spend some time, in the car doing that. And then when I get home, I'll do quite a bit of the writing. But I don't watch a lot of reality TV, so I spend my time, on the laptop when the family's down for the night.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
I actually grew up in Westport, Massachusetts, Horseneck Beach and all that, so a real small town. I graduated in 1986. I ended up getting a career in law enforcement. I worked for the police department for a short time, and I actually ended up in the prison system where I became an investigator for the Massachusetts Department of Correction. I was also in the National Guard. We got activated in 1991. I served in Operation Desert Storm, so the first Gulf War. We only did about 6 months over there, but it was brutal, absolutely brutal.
Wow.
So much so that, I made a decision that but when I made it out of the desert, I was going to chase my dream down, which was to be a published author. So it's taken me years, but I finally, fulfilled that promise to myself.
Wow. So we talked to you probably about 6 months ago, and at that time you said, I'm working on my next book called The Changing Season. Tell us, That's the new book that's out today. Tell us what that book is all about.
The Changing Season is actually a coming-of-age book, which, at this point in my career seems somewhat odd that I would write that, but the timing's perfect. I have a son and a daughter. My daughter just, finished college. I have a son that has a semester left. Another boy in high school, so we're talking about college for him. So it's really, it was the time to do it, right? So it's a coming-of-age book, really taking a look at this generation, which, I'm not trying to be insulting, but it's somewhat entitled, that hasn't really worked all that hard and has had a lot of things done for them. And so I think the main character, his name's Billy Baker, and he graduates from high school in the beginning of the book, and the book ends actually him going off to college. So the whole thing takes place within the summer, before he goes off to college. And I put so many obstacles and challenges in front of him that he has no choice but to grow up, right? And but I think the cool part of the book is I also give him a very, very good friend, his best friend, whose name is Jimmy, and it's actually a mutt who's about 14 years old in the book. So Jimmy's actually his confidant and, the person that he talks to. So rather than doing all this internal dialogue, he's, always talking to the dog, so you have a sense of what's going on with him. But it was a lot of fun. I think, the reviewers have really, really been kind. We've gotten some real acclaim for the book, and I think that it's highly relatable. So it doesn't matter whether you're young or old, male, female. I think you'll really be able to relate to this book, right? Whether or not you're a dog lover or somebody who remembers, having graduated from high school and not knowing what to do with their lives, or somebody who's going through it now.
Wow. So basically your audience is anyone?
Yes, I would say, I'm probably like the high end of young adult, all the way through like new adult, contemporary, and beyond that. So the people who have read it so far, I mean, we're blessed. The book's out today. We already have, I think it's over 60 reviews on Amazon. 50 of them are
Holy
5 stars.
Wow.
Wow.
The people, I mean, the ages vary, the readership varies, which is fantastic. And that's really, the intention of this book was to grow my audience, my readership, but to really get something that's highly relatable to all audiences.
So that was going to be my next question. So when you wrote the book, you actually targeted it to be kind of aimed at everybody in general, not a specific segment.
I did. I mean, from a writer's perspective, to put a dog in the book is a bit of a layup in a sense, right? I mean, people have had a dog. Most people, so I write 80% of this dog. The other 20% becomes the dog that you grew up with. So it's very easy as a writer to endear a character like that to the reader, right? So by putting the dog in the story, he actually helps to tell, the story as you go through it. But I think because of that time and place, most people when they were graduating from high school were lost, right? And it's at a time where you have to make these major decisions, and you're ill prepared to make them. So I really wanted to capture that.
So speaking of animals, I know that you are doing something with the ASPCA with this book.
Yeah, we are. We're actually giving a percentage of the profits and proceeds to the ASPCA. There'll be 50 cents per book, which is donated.
Wow.
Fantastic. The dog in the book is a rescue dog, so I can get on a pedestal with this thing or a soapbox and preach, but it really is about the unconditional love of an animal and how they can ground you, as a person and kind of center you, and that's what I did with it in this book. So I think a lot of people have really attached themselves to it, and as I said, it's I hate to keep using the word relatable, but they can kind of see themselves in the story.
Wow. So somebody like you have all of these novels that you get all kinds of acclaim for. I mean, just to have so many reviews on this one that's basically brand new, The Changing Season. Right. How long do you stay on that high for? Because it sounds like you're just already back writing the next book.
Yeah, it's definitely a mix. It's funny, like today being the release date, people would think that it's very climatic, and it's not. I mean, it's a pleasure being on your show. I've done some other things today, but it's really about the work. I mean, I really, really enjoy writing, right? And the marketing, not so much, but it's necessary. I mean, you need to get out there and connect with people. So, I do a lot on social media and the prep work that goes into it. I mean, I've been marketing this book for the last six to 8 weeks. So to get onto another project is such a joy because it's what I love to do. I love to create characters and stories. So, but it's also thrilling, and it's, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's, when people can come back to you and you can stop this discussion. It's not about praise, but it's about having this dialogue with other people where they can kind of see where you were coming from, and, they can connect to it and therefore connect to me, which is fantastic.
Wow. So when did your first book come out?
Well, I wrote under a pen name Stephen Hurwitz, which was a blessing because it took me a long time to really, cut my teeth and learn how to write. So the first couple of books I wrote under a pen name Stephen Hurwitz, and I'll be the first to say they weren't the best books written. So it takes time, and really, I would say the first book that had any type of substance where I knew, I at least had a shot at a career as a writer is a book called The Unexpected Storm, which was autobiographical. It was nonfiction. It was about the first Gulf War, and really it served as a catharsis for me, to help heal my soul from that brutal experience. So, and that came out in, I think it was 2000.
Wow. So you use writing to heal as well,
right?
For yourself.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So do you ever have days or weeks go by that you don't write at all, or no?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it usually takes me about 9 to 10 months, to write a book. Now, because I've learned how to storyboard and I'm getting much more efficient, with the process, it takes me about 6 months, to get a first draft. And a first draft for me is really like 80% done, right? So then I start working with the copy editor, and, we go back and forth, and there's a lot of give and take. But, excuse me, so I write, in the last 5 years, I've been putting out one a year, which is somewhat insane, but, the business model has called for it. It's the time for me to really put the work in, as I start to gather a readership. So, it takes me about 6 months to write the book. I then take several months off. I started doing some research on the next book, which is just as fun, and then the writing begins again.
Do you have a favorite book that you've done?
The answer, the real answer is always the next book, right? But
Yes.
I love The Changing Season, and I love another book I wrote called The Rocking Chair. And really because it was based on, the main character was based on my grandfather, who's been dead for 30 years. But it was, I was so attached to that character.
Wow. And what about the book you're working on now? What is that about?
It's called Ashes, and I wanted to capture, another point in time. My brother works for NASCAR, and he was up, this past summer. I'm sorry, he was actually up over the Christmas break, and we're both entering middle age, so it's funny how the kids are getting older. The careers are kind of set. I mean, we're not looking at the sunset yet, but it's it's very different. The conversation about doctor's visits and all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to capture, unlike this coming of age book, I wanted to capture middle age. So I have these two brothers that travel across the country from Salem to Seattle with their father's ashes, and they can't stand each other. They absolutely hate each other. And
Wow.
the only thing they share in common is that they hated their father more.
Wow.
So it's stuff, there's some comedy and, just really true-to-life type relationships.
That's awesome. And I know, just because I know I follow you on Facebook for The Changing Season, do all of your books take place in New England?
Yeah, they do now. It's funny. I wrote The Rocking Chair, and it took place in Montana. But, Stacey, honestly, it was like, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but I spent so much time researching Montana dairy farming and flying pigeons that, I became an expert at that stuff rather than, just place the book here. We already know about it. I mean, I already know about the weather and, the vegetation, and you don't have to do too much research. So everything from here on will take place in New England.
Yes, because I know I follow you on Facebook, and I see that you put on, last week I think, you put some pictures of places that you have featured in the book that are real places throughout New England.
Yeah, and I think people get a kick out of it to have that local flavor.
Yes.
It doesn't matter to somebody who's reading the book in Nevada or Sweden, but for folks here, it's funny that you can start to gain momentum and really get some interest and some support behind you when a book is released. But for me, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, if I'm putting somebody in a pizza shop, I might as well put them in, a pizza shop I hang out with, at.
That's awesome. Stephen King does that. Like, all of his are in Maine and around where he lives.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's fun. It's actually like giving somebody a wink. I mean, I was contacted last week from, basically, it's a breakfast diner, and the guy asked me if I wanted to do a book signing in there, and it'd be crazy to say no. So obviously I said yes, but it would probably be one of the best book signings I've ever had because
Yes.
I'm going to come out for it, right? And the guy's thrilled because his place is in the book.
Yes.
Maybe your next coming-of-age story, it could be about people who buy houses using Ross Mortgage and Lair.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Why not?
It's a thought, right?
Yeah.
My curiosity is, do you read a lot?
I do. I read a lot when I'm not writing.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, like, I'll be teaching next week, and, I'm finishing up another edit for Ashes, and then I'm going to take some time off, and I'll do a lot of reading. Because I love to read, and I need to increase my vocabulary. It's funny, the older I get and the more I write, the slower I read, because I love the way people put,
Yes.
put words together, right? And but when I'm writing, and I tell young writers this, you really have to watch out because, you'll be until the middle of a book reading the book, and then at night you're writing something, and then you read it back to yourself, and it seems somewhat familiar, right? So it's easy to become impressionable
Yes.
by what you're reading. So I take time off while I'm writing.
Wow.
I do love to read.
All right. So where can people buy The Changing Season?
The best place to go is really either BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. The book is available in hardcover. You can get it in digital copy, so something for your Nook or your Kindle. And it's also available tomorrow in audio.
Oh, wow.
And who reads the audio? Is it you?
No, it's actually, I think it's Audible.com that has the contract for it. And at first, I'll tell you about it, I wanted to do them, but I don't know if you've ever seen that process. Like, I wouldn't, because they send me, these different clips, and I'll come back and say, you need to pronounce this differently. So it's a real tedious process, but they use, professional voice actors, which I appreciate.
Gotcha. So you're not saddled with doing it. You're on your own.
No, I wouldn't, like I said, at first, I really thought it would be a thrill to do that. but it's more of a thrill to hear somebody else, read your words back to you,
Yes.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any upcoming book signings in the coming weeks in the Boston area that people should check out?
No, I'm going to be working on putting some of that stuff together, and I will have it on my website, which is StephenManchester.com.
Okay.
And folks can also connect with me on Twitter, as well as Facebook. Probably the best place is Facebook. If you send me a note, my turnaround time is usually about 4 minutes. So if you do want to connect, but I will be posting, all the events and appearances as we go along.
Okay, awesome. And are those opportunities where people can get the Changing Season and also potentially some of your other books if you...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll make sure, stuff's available. I mean, if I'm coming up to an event, normally the bookstore will order, my backlist
Gotcha.
as well.
Okay, awesome. Stephen Manchester and The Changing Season, and you can visit him at StephenManchester.com or find him on Facebook or Twitter.
Great. Thanks for being on the show with us again, Steve. It was
Thanks.
great having you.
Thank you both. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And that's going to do it for this edition of Get Real. Make sure you join us again next weekend for more.